They laughed when you stayed quiet. They called it weakness because they couldn't understand discipline. They expected you to explain yourself, defend yourself, and chase their approval. But real power doesn't make noise. It doesn't beg to be seen. It grows in silence, while everyone else is distracted by attention, validation, and endless opinions. The moment you stop wasting energy on proving your worth, something changes. Your mind becomes sharper. Your emotions become stronger. Your goals become clearer. The people who ignored you begin to notice, not because you demanded respect, but because your actions became impossible to ignore. The loudest person in the room is often hiding the most. The quiet one is building something no one can steal. Every hour spent improving yourself is a step away from chaos and a step toward control. While others compete for applause, you compete with the person you were yesterday. Silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's survival in a world that constantly tries to pull your attention in every direction. The less you react, the more you see. The more you grow, the less you need to convince anyone of your value. The moment you stop chasing everyone's attention, your life begins to change. Most people spend years trying to impress strangers, seeking approval from people who don't even know their struggles. They measure their worth by likes, compliments, invitations, and applause. Every decision becomes a performance. Every conversation becomes an audition, and every failure feels like the end because they built their identity on other people's opinions. That's the trap. The world teaches you to look outside yourself for value, but real strength has never come from the outside. It is built in the moments when nobody is watching. Look around. People are exhausted, not because life is impossible, but because they carry the weight of expectations that were never theirs to begin with. They wake up wondering how others see them instead of asking who they are becoming. They compare their beginning to someone else's finish and wonder why they never feel enough. Every scroll through social media becomes another reminder that someone appears happier, richer, stronger, or more successful. They forget that comparison is an endless game where nobody truly wins. The more you compare, the more you lose sight of your own path. The strongest person is rarely the one demanding attention. Strength grows quietly. It is built through discipline, patience, sacrifice, and consistency. None of those things are exciting in the beginning. They don't receive applause. Nobody celebrates the early mornings when you choose discipline over comfort. Nobody notices the nights you spend learning while others are wasting time. Nobody claps for the moments you refuse distractions to stay committed to your purpose. Those moments seem invisible, yet they create the version of you that everyone notices later. People often think confidence comes from praise. That's why they keep searching for someone to tell them they're enough. But confidence built on compliments disappears the moment criticism arrives. If one opinion can make you feel powerful, another opinion can destroy you just as quickly. Real confidence is different. It comes from promises you made to yourself and refuse to break. Every time you keep your word to yourself, your mind begins to trust you. Every challenge you overcome becomes proof that you are stronger than your excuses. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean ignoring the world. It means refusing to let the world control your direction. There will always be opinions. Some will admire you. Some will doubt you. Some will secretly hope you fail, because your progress reminds them of everything they never had the courage to pursue. If you stop for every voice, you'll spend your entire life walking in circles. The road belongs to the person who keeps moving regardless of who's watching. Most distractions don't look dangerous at first. They arrive dressed as entertainment, comfort, gossip, unnecessary arguments, meaningless competition, and the endless need to prove yourself. They steal your time 1 minute at a time until years disappear. Then people wonder why nothing changed. They blame luck. They blame circumstances. They blame everyone except the habits that quietly shaped their reality. Every hour invested in yourself compounds like interest. One page read today becomes knowledge tomorrow. One workout becomes strength. One difficult decision becomes discipline. One failure becomes experience. Small actions repeated consistently create results that seem impossible to those who only notice the final outcome. People see success and call it luck because they never witnessed the countless invisible choices that built it. The world will always try to pull your attention away from your purpose, because attention has become the most valuable currency. Every notification competes for your focus. Every trend demands your participation. Every opinion asks for your reaction. But every moment spent reacting is a moment not spent creating. Every ounce of energy wasted on proving yourself is energy stolen from becoming yourself. The greatest transformation begins when you realize that your biggest competition has never been another person. It has always been the version of you that chooses comfort over growth, fear over action, excuses over responsibility, and distraction over purpose. Defeat that version every single day, and the opinions of the crowd slowly lose their power over your mind. The person who constantly watches others forgets to build themselves. The one who stays committed to personal growth eventually reaches a point where comparison no longer matters, because their progress speaks louder than anyone's opinion. Every lesson learned, every habit improved, every setback survived becomes another brick in a foundation that cannot be shaken by praise or criticism. Your future is shaped by what you consistently focus on. If your attention belongs to everyone else, your life will belong to everyone else too. If your attention belongs to your growth, your discipline, your mindset, and your purpose, then your future begins to reflect those choices. The mirror never lies. It simply reflects the person you have been becoming through every decision you make when nobody is watching. Silence terrifies people more than words ever will. The moment you stop explaining yourself, they begin creating their own stories. They wonder what you're thinking. They question your intentions. They search for signs, clues, and weaknesses because they can no longer predict your next move. That's the strange thing about silence. It forces people to face their own assumptions while you remain untouched by the noise they create. Most people speak because they fear being misunderstood. They defend every decision, justify every mistake, and argue over every opinion as if convincing strangers will somehow change their reality. They waste hours trying to win conversations while losing control of their own minds. Every unnecessary argument steals a piece of their peace. Every emotional reaction gives someone else the power to influence their day. The louder they become, the more they reveal about themselves. There is a different kind of strength that doesn't need constant explanation. It listens more than it speaks. It observes more than it reacts. While everyone else rushes to fill every moment with words, this strength quietly collects information. It notices the lies hidden behind confident voices. It sees fear disguised as arrogance. It recognizes insecurity hiding beneath endless criticism. People often reveal everything about themselves simply because they cannot tolerate silence. The world rewards those who react quickly, but wisdom belongs to those who pause. One moment of silence can prevent years of regret. One deep breath can stop an unnecessary conflict. One decision not to respond can protect your peace better than the perfect comeback ever could. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every accusation deserves your defense. Not every opinion deserves a response. People mistake silence for weakness because they've been taught that power must always be loud. They believe confidence means speaking over everyone else, proving every point, and winning every debate. But the strongest minds understand something different. A lion doesn't roar before every step it takes. It moves with purpose because it knows. Its strength doesn't depend on convincing anyone. Think about how much energy disappears every time you argue with someone determined not to understand you. Facts don't matter to a closed mind. Logic cannot defeat pride. The more you explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, the more frustrated you become. Eventually, you realize that silence protects your energy better than endless words ever could. Silence is not the absence of confidence. It is confidence refusing to perform. It is knowing your value without demanding recognition. It is choosing peace over ego and progress over pointless battles. While others fight for the last word, you're building a life that doesn't require their approval. There are people who cannot stand your silence because it denies them control. They expect anger so they can justify their own behavior. They expect excuses so they can point out flaws. They expect emotional reactions because reactions make you predictable. But when you remain calm, they lose the script they plan to follow. Suddenly, they are forced to confront themselves instead of controlling you. Every unnecessary word creates another opportunity for misunderstanding. Every emotional response gives away information about your fears, your triggers, and your weaknesses. Silence keeps those doors closed. It teaches discipline over impulse. It reminds you that not every thought deserves to become a sentence, and not every feeling deserves immediate expression. Observe people carefully. The ones who gossip the most often reveal the emptiness they try to hide. The ones who constantly criticize others are usually avoiding their own reflection. The ones who demand attention often fear being forgotten. They expose themselves without realizing it because they cannot stop talking long enough to hear their own contradictions. Mastering silence also means becoming comfortable with solitude. Many people fill every quiet moment with distractions because silence forces them to meet the person they've been avoiding. Without music, notifications, conversations, or entertainment, they hear the thoughts they've been running from for years. That's why they stay busy. That's why they keep talking. Noise becomes an escape from self-awareness. But growth begins where noise ends. In silence, you recognize your habits. You confront your excuses. You notice the patterns controlling your life. You become aware of how often your emotions try to make decisions your logic should be making. Silence sharpens perception. It strengthens patience. It teaches emotional control in a way endless motivation never can. The person who controls their tongue often controls their destiny. Every word carries consequences. Once spoken, it cannot be taken back. A careless sentence can destroy trust built over years. A reckless argument can create enemies that never needed to exist. Silence gives your thoughts room to mature before they become actions. The loudest room is rarely the wisest one. Chaos attracts attention because it is easy to notice. Discipline is quiet because it is focused. While others announce every plan, every dream, and every intention, the silent person is already making progress. They understand that results create more respect than promises, and that true power is never measured by how much you speak, but by how much you accomplish without needing to say a word. Your greatest enemy has never been the world. It has never been the people who doubted you, betrayed you, or laughed at your dreams. Those people only exposed the cracks that already existed inside your mind. The real battle has always been between the voice that pushes you forward and the one that convinces you to quit. Every single day, those two voices fight for control, and whichever one you feed becomes the architect of your future. Mental strength isn't something you're born with. It isn't reserved for the lucky, the gifted, or the fearless. It is built through pressure, failure, disappointment, and pain. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort, never realizing that discomfort is the very thing that creates resilience. They pray for an easier life instead of becoming stronger people. They search for shortcuts instead of building endurance. Then they wonder why every obstacle feels impossible to overcome. Life has a strange way of revealing what's inside you. Anyone can smile when everything is going well. Anyone can appear confident when success comes easily. But pressure exposes character. Failure removes the mask. Loss strips away every illusion you've created about yourself. The moment everything begins falling apart is often the moment you finally discover who you really are. The mind is a dangerous place when left undisciplined. It remembers every insult longer than every compliment. It exaggerates every fear until imagination feels like reality. It creates excuses that sound reasonable enough to keep you trapped. It whispers that tomorrow is a better time to start. It convinces you that you're too late, too weak, too ordinary, or too broken. It doesn't need chains to imprison you. It only needs your permission to believe its lies. People often think mental strength means never feeling fear. That's an illusion. Fear visits everyone. Doubt knocks on every door. Anxiety doesn't ask for permission before entering your thoughts. The difference is that mentally strong people refuse to let temporary emotions become permanent decisions. They understand that feelings change, but consequences remain. They don't wait until confidence appears before taking action. They act despite uncertainty because action weakens fear more effectively than endless thinking ever will. Every difficult experience leaves you with two choices. You can become bitter or you can become wiser. You can let pain define your identity, or you can let it sharpen on your perspective. Many people wear their suffering like a permanent label. They introduce themselves through everything that went wrong in their lives. Their past becomes an excuse for every decision they refuse to make. They carry old wounds into new opportunities and wonder why nothing changes. Mental strength begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single shift transforms every setback into training. Failure becomes feedback. Rejection becomes redirection. Criticism becomes information instead of destruction. Every challenge becomes another opportunity to strengthen the part of you that comfort could never reach. Control is one of the greatest forms of power. Not control over other people, but control over yourself. Anyone can lose their temper. Anyone can blame someone else. Anyone can react without thinking. It takes discipline to remain calm when chaos surrounds you. It takes maturity to stay focused when distractions multiply. It takes real strength to forgive without forgetting the lesson, to move forward without carrying unnecessary hatred. The world constantly tries to train your mind in the wrong direction. Every notification teaches impatience. Every comparison creates insecurity. Every distraction weakens attention. Every excuse delays growth. Slowly, people lose the ability to sit with their own thoughts. They become addicted to stimulation because silence forces them to confront the reality they've been avoiding. A disciplined mind doesn't seek comfort every hour of the day. It understands that growth and comfort rarely exist in the same place. It chooses consistency over motivation because motivation disappears whenever life becomes difficult. Discipline remains when emotions fail. It wakes you up when laziness whispers. It keeps you moving when excitement fades. It reminds you that success belongs to habits, not moods. The strongest people are rarely the loudest. They don't need everyone to know they're struggling because they've learned that complaining doesn't reduce the weight they carry. Instead of announcing every battle, they quietly build the strength to survive it. They don't waste energy proving how hard life has been. They invest that energy into becoming someone hardship can no longer intimidate. Your mind remembers whatever you repeatedly tell it. If every morning begins with excuses, your brain learns limitation. If every challenge becomes proof that you're incapable, your identity slowly becomes shaped by defeat. But if you repeatedly choose action over hesitation, courage over comfort, responsibility over blame, your mind begins accepting strength as your new normal. Thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs become habits. Habits become character. The greatest prison isn't built from steel or concrete. It's built from fear, self-doubt, and the stories people repeat to themselves every day. Most never escape because they decorate the prison instead of breaking the walls. They become comfortable with limitation, convincing themselves that safety is the same as peace. But a mind that refuses to grow slowly becomes a cage where potential fades long before opportunity disappears. Words are cheap. Promises are cheaper. Anyone can stand in front of a crowd and describe the life they're going to build. Anyone can announce a new beginning, a new mindset, or a new goal. For a moment, people listen. Some even applaud. But time has a habit of exposing the difference between those who speak and those who act. Eventually, every promise meets reality, and reality never negotiates with excuses. The world is full of people addicted to talking about success instead of creating it. They explain their plans in perfect detail, imagining the future so vividly that it almost feels real. They convince themselves that speaking about progress is the same as making progress. Every conversation becomes another performance. Every dream becomes another story. But stories don't build character. Repetition does. Discipline does. Action does. People often reveal their priorities without realizing it. Listen carefully. The person who constantly announces every move is usually seeking validation before earning results. They need others to believe in them because they haven't yet learned to believe in themselves. They depend on encouragement to keep moving, which means criticism can stop them just as easily. Their confidence rises and falls with the opinions surrounding them. Real builders move differently. They understand that unfinished work attracts unnecessary attention. Every time you announce a goal, someone will doubt it. Someone will mock it. Someone will secretly hope you fail, because your ambition reminds them of everything they abandoned. Instead of wasting energy defending your vision, protect it. Let your work grow quietly until it becomes impossible to deny. Action carries a language that requires no translation. A disciplined routine speaks louder than motivational speeches. A healthy body speaks louder than fitness advice. Financial responsibility speaks louder than expensive appearances. Emotional control speaks louder than angry arguments. Your habits introduce you long before your words ever have the chance. There is something unsettling about a person who stays quiet while consistently improving. People can't predict them. They can't measure them by empty promises, because there are none. They only see results appearing over time. First comes curiosity, then disbelief. Eventually comes respect. Not because respect was demanded, but because consistency made it unavoidable. Many people confuse movement with progress. They stay busy every hour of the day, constantly discussing ideas, making plans, attending meetings, and chasing distractions. From the outside, they appear productive. But motion without purpose is only another form of procrastination. Running in circles still leaves you exactly where you started. Action demands sacrifice that words never require. Talking about waking up early costs nothing. Actually leaving a warm bed before sunrise requires discipline. Saying you'll forgive someone is easy. Letting go of resentment requires strength. Declaring that you'll change your life takes seconds. Repeating difficult choices every single day takes character. Excuses always sound intelligent to the person making them. There will always be reasons to wait. Not enough money. Not enough time. Not enough confidence. The perfect moment becomes an illusion. People chase until years disappear. Meanwhile, someone with fewer resources, less experience, and greater fear quietly begins anyway. They stumble. They fail. They adjust. While others continue explaining why they can't. That person slowly builds a life impossible to ignore. Every action leaves evidence. Every missed workout leaves evidence. Every extra hour spent learning leaves evidence. Every decision to remain calm instead of reacting leaves evidence. Your future isn't shaped by what you intended to do. It's shaped by what you repeatedly chose to do when nobody else was paying attention. People often underestimate the power of small actions because they expect dramatic results overnight. They don't realize that greatness rarely arrives through one extraordinary moment. It grows through ordinary choices, repeated long enough to become extraordinary. One chapter, read today, seems insignificant. One disciplined morning feels ordinary. One difficult conversation appears small. But months later, those invisible choices become visible transformation. The loudest critics are often the least productive. They analyze everyone else's decisions because examining their own would require uncomfortable honesty. They point fingers to avoid looking in the mirror. They judge effort they never had the courage to make themselves. Their opinions create noise, but noise has never built anything lasting. Imagine two people standing at the same starting line. One spends every day talking about where they're going. The other quietly starts walking. At first, they seem equal. Days pass, weeks pass, months pass. The distance between them grows wider, not because one possessed extraordinary talent, but because movement defeated intention. Your reputation isn't built through introductions. It is built through repeated behavior. People eventually forget what you promised, but they never forget what you consistently demonstrated. Reliability creates trust. Discipline creates respect. Consistency creates influence. These things cannot be borrowed, purchased, or faked for long, because reality always reveals the truth beneath appearances. Every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. Every disciplined choice strengthens your identity. Every excuse weakens it. The mirror doesn't reflect your ambitions. It reflects your habits. The future doesn't reward your potential. It responds to your commitment. Long before the world notices your success, your daily actions have already decided whether that success will ever exist. Transformation doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with a decision so small that most people ignore it. One choice to wake up instead of hitting snooze. One decision to stay disciplined instead of chasing comfort. One moment where you refuse to become the same person you were yesterday. People spend their lives waiting for motivation to arrive, like a hero coming to rescue them, never realizing that motivation is unreliable. It appears when life is easy and disappears the moment discomfort enters the room. Discipline is different. Discipline shows up whether you feel inspired or not. Most people love the idea of becoming stronger, but they hate the process that creates strength. They admire confidence without understanding the years of uncertainty that came before it. They celebrate success without respecting the countless failures hidden beneath it. They want the reward without the sacrifice, the victory without the struggle, and the destination without the journey. That's why so many dreams remain unfinished. They weren't destroyed by impossible obstacles. They were abandoned the moment discipline became more difficult than comfort. Comfort is a silent thief. It doesn't attack all at once. It slowly convinces you that skipping one workout won't matter, that wasting one evening won't change anything, that delaying your goals until tomorrow is harmless. One excuse becomes another, and before long, weeks become months. Months become years. Then people wake up wondering where their ambition disappeared. It wasn't stolen overnight. It faded through thousands of tiny decisions that felt insignificant at the time. Discipline works the opposite way. It also grows through small choices, but every disciplined decision strengthens the next one. One completed task builds confidence for another. One promise kept to yourself makes the next promise easier to honor. Slowly, your identity changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to improve. You become someone who simply does what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. The world teaches people to chase emotions. If they feel motivated, they work. If they feel tired, they quit. If they feel afraid, they hesitate. If they feel discouraged, they stop completely. Their entire future depends on emotions that change every hour. That's a dangerous way to live, because emotions are temporary guests, not reliable leaders. Discipline refuses to hand over control. It understands that feelings are real, but they are not always right. There will always be days when your mind tells you to surrender. It will remind you how difficult the journey has become. It will exaggerate every obstacle and minimize every achievement. It will whisper that nobody notices your effort, that progress is too slow, that someone else is naturally better than you. The undisciplined person listens. The disciplined person keeps moving anyway, because they understand that the voice demanding comfort is rarely the voice leading toward greatness. Transformation requires repetition, so ordinary that it often feels boring. People underestimate boring routines because they expect dramatic breakthroughs. They believe success should feel exciting every day. The truth is much less glamorous. Real growth often looks like repeating simple habits when nobody is watching, reading another chapter, finishing another workout, practicing another skill, saving another dollar, choosing patience instead of anger, and saying no to another distraction. Those moments seem too small to matter until they quietly reshape your entire life. The strongest people don't possess magical self-control. They simply make fewer negotiations with their excuses. They don't ask themselves whether they feel like doing the work. They already decided long ago that feelings would never outrank responsibility. Every time they honor that decision, their discipline becomes stronger, while their excuses become weaker. Look closely at people who constantly restart their lives. Every Monday becomes a new beginning. Every new month brings another promise. Every setback erases their progress because their commitment was tied to excitement instead of discipline. They mistake fresh starts for lasting change. But transformation doesn't happen because you started. It happens because you refuse to stop. Your habits quietly shape your destiny long before results become visible. Every repeated action sends a message to your mind about who you believe you are. If you repeatedly break promises to yourself, your mind begins expecting failure. If you repeatedly keep your word, despite difficulty, your mind begins trusting you. That trust becomes confidence, and confidence built through discipline cannot be taken away by criticism, failure, or temporary defeat. People often search everywhere for the secret that will change their lives. They buy courses, collect advice, chase trends, and wait for perfect opportunities. All the while, the answer keeps standing in front of them, disguised as ordinary discipline. The secret was never hidden. It was simply too repetitive for people addicted to shortcuts. Every disciplined choice separates you from the version of yourself that settles for average. Every distraction you resist strengthens your focus. Every difficult decision you embrace expands your resilience. Every promise you keep builds a foundation that chaos cannot easily shake. Eventually, the person staring back at you in the mirror no longer resembles the one who once depended on motivation, approval, or luck, because they have been rebuilt one disciplined decision at a time, forged through consistency instead of comfort, shaped by relentless commitment instead of temporary emotion, and driven by purpose instead of excuses.